Consulting Group. Prepare, plan, rebuild. If you enjoy this video, please don't forget to subscribe and leave us a like and a comment below. If you know of anyone that would benefit from watching these videos, don't forget to share. Today's video, we will be discussing 8 simple steps to developing policies and procedures. This is part of our ongoing Year 1 series. Before we get started, we have to begin with a quick disclaimer. This is intended to be educational in nature, and none of the information provided is intended to be taken as legal advice. All information provided is based on the cumulative experiences of the staff of the Briones Consulting Group. If you are developing a P&P manual, we strongly recommend that you have it reviewed by a licensed attorney familiar with your industry and local labor laws. So let's get started. What is a policy? Policy is just a set of rules that govern your company, your organization. They're usually created as a preventative measure or a reactionary response. Let me explain what that means. In essence, if I have a set of rules that I would like to see people follow in my company, I will sit down and I will create them, as we'll discuss in the video moving on. I'm going to think of the things that I want to see done. That is a preventative measure. Now, throughout the course of operating my business, things may come up that are a little bit unique to my company or to the situations that I'm coming across, and I want to make sure that should something like that happen again, people will know our company policy, our culture's philosophy on how to handle it, and that is a reactionary response. So along with this, we also have procedures. Now, the procedures define what needs to happen in order to make the policy effective. For example, if we are running a business that is consumer facing, such as a call center or some home cleaning or home care service where your business has a large component that is consumer facing. That means that you will have exposure to upset or irate clients from time to time. A policy would be do not confront angry or irate clients. The procedures would be the steps that should be taken in order to escalate appropriately. Diffuse the situation, calm the client down, um, elevate it to the manager. So why do we need to create a P&P manual? Well, policies clearly outline what is and is not acceptable in the workplace. If you work at a bank, you may not want your employees showing up in board shorts and flip-flops. They also provide actionable steps so that the policies are followed and as well what to do when they're not. So if you have this policy about no board shorts and flip-flops to work, and an employee happens to show up that way, your management team needs to be aware of what the expectation is on how to correct this behavior. Also, as your business grows, your P&P manual will allow for appropriate growth and expansion. What this means is we're all small business owners. Ultimately, many of us would like to have the freedom to take vacations, to spend more time with our family. This is part of why we go into business. It's not always to get rich, it's sometimes just to have that personal freedom. Well, the policy and procedure manual will allow us to have this freedom and put someone in place that will know what our philosophies are and our values are so that we can continue to grow our business. And also, a properly created policy and procedures manual will not only protect you, but it will protect your employees and your clients. Having these rules and ways to handle things written out eliminates ambiguity. Ambiguity are what breeds lawsuits. So, step one, we got to identify the need. Look at what your business does. Look at what the responsibilities are, look at your environment, look at your own expectations of how things should be done. You got to break each one down into its simplest forms. If you do not want board shorts and flip-flops as part of your company dress code, then make that clear. Business casual does describe a form of dress. Give clear examples in the process. Really break it down to the simplest form. And describe what should happen. So our appropriate company dress code involves business casual. That means khakis or slacks, um, or short or skirts up to a certain length, and keep going down. Again, please see your local labor attorney to see what would be permitted or not in your state. Ask yourself at that point, once you've described what would happen, what could go wrong? And create the appropriate policy and rule to mitigate that situation. So we have this, now we have our company dress code in place and somebody does show up. You've clearly put in there no board shorts and flip-flops. So what is your management team to do once an employee does show up in board shorts and flip-flops? Are they going to get a verbal reprimand? Are they going to have to get a written reprimand? Or are they to be terminated? Or are they just to be sent home to change? Dock the day's pay. Come up with what is the appropriate policy and how you're going to mitigate the situation once. Now, step two, you have to decide who's responsible for what. All right, see, we'll get into this in later videos, but every organization, I don't care how small it is, I don't care if you're a solo person, you need to break down the tasks that are to be done day by day into specific roles. What would a manager be responsible for if I were to put one in place? What would a receptionist be responsible for should I put one in place? What would a salesperson be responsible for? A clerk, a cashier? You really should have this done because it prepares you for growth. So every role should have clearly defined responsibilities. And these responsibilities need to be attached to the role, not an individual. Meaning, if Mary is the person that handles your payroll, your bookkeeping, and answers the phones, those are three different roles that she has. So your policy manual should read, if there are any questions, comments, or concerns, or any requests for PTO with payroll, please see the payroll department, not go see Mary. That's essentially what you should be looking at. And again, we'll do another video on this later on because I think organization and clearly defined roles is a very important topic. So now we're going to draft the policy. That just means we're going to write this up and we want to keep it simple. Use the KISS method. This may be offensive to some people, but it's not really meant to be derogatory. KISS stands for keep it simple, stupid. Yeah. And that's really what we want to do. You have to keep in mind that not everyone is on the same level. Some people dropped out of school very young. Some people have PhDs and everything in between. You know, the fact is not everyone will understand complex language, so we want to keep the language as simple as possible, and we really want to keep the language in mind with the position. If you are running a landscaping company, your lowest skilled labor needs to understand as clearly as your highest level manager, just as an example. You want to keep your policies short but detailed, and some specific tasks or some specific areas that are going to be covered may require multiple policies in order to maintain brevity. Next, we want to have the policy reviewed. All right, have somebody else read it. Ask them, does the policy stand alone? Meaning, if I were to hand this to you, would you clearly understand what the point I'm trying to get across? Yeah, is the policy a general rule or is it related to a task? Meaning, if I am just putting down as my policy, you know, company policy is that we are equal opportunity employer and everyone's beliefs, race, gender identity, so on and so forth, needs to be respected. That is a standalone policy. Now, if I wanted to have a policy on trash should be removed and thrown into the compactor in the back, that is clear, but I should also include a set of instructions on how to safely operate the machinery. Also ask yourself, how often will the task need to be done? If it is something that rarely comes up, you absolutely want to write it down because you need consistency. And then, depending on what the task is, it may only come up rarely because it requires a more delicate approach, or it may require, some specific technique or specific set of rules in order to not make a bad situation worse, or not to make a normal situation bad. So you really need to think about how often will this happen, and how important is it that it is handled in a specific way. And now, does the position that is going to be completing this task have high turnaround? If, let's take the example of home care, home health aides are a high turnaround position. So if I have a policy in place for what is to happen if one of my home health aides is caring for a client that has Alzheimer's, if they are on an outing and the client wanders away just because it happens, what is supposed to happen with that client? So that is something that it may not happen regularly, but because of the high turnaround, a policy and procedure should be in place as to how to specifically handle that in order to mitigate long-term problems, possibly lawsuits or the health, or so to not adversely affect the health and safety of the client. Then what we're going to want to do is create your procedure. Again, how often will they be doing it? How complex is this task? Does equipment need to be used? If it does, you might need a separate set of instructions for how to operate the equipment. How much experience will the person that's going to be hired for that spot typically have? If it's something that requires, or that you would prefer someone with more experience, then the some of the knowledge on how to complete this will will already come with the person. Some of it may not. Hiring for experience, again, this is another topic we'll cover in a later video. Hiring for experience is a good thing, but sometimes it's comes with bad habits from previous employers. So may want to consider how detailed that instruction needs to be. A general rule of thumb is the less involvement you want to have in your day-to-day operations or in certain tasks in general within your business, the more detailed your policy and procedures manual have to be. Okay. In the end, use your best judgment when deciding how detailed you want to make the policy and procedures manual. But also, we recommend that before anything, you have it reviewed by a licensed professional or somebody who a consultant or an attorney that has specific knowledge of your industry and is very well versed in local, state, and federal laws. Which brings us to the next step. Don't take chances. Okay. If you have any doubt whatsoever about, if your policies are in compliance, ask somebody. You don't want to create a policy that is discriminatory or that excludes any particular person or group. You do not want to find yourself in any situation like that. It can cost you your business as a whole. So then, once we have everything reviewed, we will want to approve and implement. So once everything's approved, it's passed all the tests, and now you are getting ready to put all these policies in place. Whether it is a new business that people are coming in and you have to explain it, or you're an established business and there has been a significant change in the policies and procedures, you want to make sure that you have allotted enough time to introduce these changes to your staff, that you've trained all the staff on how to handle things, what the expectations are, and this includes any training or explanation that needs to be passed along to your client base. Whether it's another business or an individual, everyone should be aware if there's any significant policy change that could affect them. And finally, monitor, review, and revise. You have to monitor the effectiveness. We recommend that you review all your policies twice a year, but at the very minimum once a year, and make revisions as you go along. Some policies will probably be reviewed much more often than others, or revised much more often than others, depending on the the general change in laws, in changes in what's socially acceptable, social responsibility, maybe depending on the demographic of your client base. There's a lot of things that will go into place. Letting this go and having an old bad policy can come back to bite you. So please do yourself a favor, monitor, review, and revise at the very minimum once a year. So, in short, remember, policies and procedures are there to protect you, your employees, and your clients. Everything should be clearly defined. Who needs to do things, what needs to be done, how often is it necessary, and how specifically you want it done. When in doubt, get professional help. Attorneys, consultants, they're not cheap. Okay, especially the good ones. They're the ones that are more knowledgeable. They're going to cost you more money. It's a reality of doing business, but remember, just as you are charging your clients for your knowledge and experience and ability to care for them, they are charging based on their accumulated knowledge and experience. So if you want to avoid a problem, make the investment. Thank you again. This video was presented by the Briones Consulting Group, Prepare, Plan, Rebuild. Visit us on the web, and please do not forget to hit that subscribe button and give us a like, and we'll be putting videos out continually every Monday, and we look forward to being able to put out quality content for you for a long time coming. Thank you.